Hello everyone, it's Karen here from Stampin' with Karen Spreckley. I've got a card making tutorial for you today using the Modern Hearts stamp set from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to be using some watercolouring techniques and some heat embossing techniques to make this lovely little card here. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a watercolour wash for the background of my card. And to do that, I'm going to use an aqua painter, and I'm going to use some ink from my ink pads, and I'm just squishing them now to get some ink, hopefully into the lid of my ink pad, and that makes a lovely watercolour palette. There we go, that's got some ink there for me. And now I'm using an aqua painter, and for anyone not familiar with these, it's a water brush. So it's a paintbrush that's already got a barrel of water there for you, and that sort of flows through a valve so that it flows a nice little amount out that you need. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually just going to wet my cardstock. I'm using the Stampin' Up shimmery cardstock today because it takes a little bit more water than the Whisper White. However, I didn't really want to use didn't need to use watercolour cardstock today. I'm going to drip a little bit of water into the lid of my ink pad to create a wash, and I'm just going to paint about half of my damp area with what am I using today? Daffodil Delight? Yeah, Daffodil Delight. I'm just going to rinse off my aqua painter on a rag there, make a watercolour wash with Flirty Flamingo, and then I shall start from the other end of the wet area, and then I shall do a little bit of merging across the middle, and that creates a sort of a third colour there in the middle. I think I might just add a little bit more, then perhaps go in with a little bit more yellow. There we go. So it's quite a loose and arty kind of background. It doesn't need to be a particularly accurate kind of style background. That's not the kind of card we're making today. So now I'm going to need to dry off this background, so I'm going to need to use my heat tool. So apologies in advance for a little bit of noise, but it shouldn't take too long. Just turn this on. So I'm just going to heat the front and the back of my paper to dry off any water that's in there, and by doing the front and the back, it means I should minimise any warping on the cardstock. Just feel that still a little bit damp. I'll just keep going until it's nice and dry. There we go. I think that'll do quite nicely. I'm just going to pop it under my grid paper so we can make it nice and flat whilst we're doing the other elements of the card. So I want to make the nice heat embossed, oh, throwing bits of cardstock everywhere. I want to make the heat embossed heart next. So I've got myself a piece of vellum here, which you probably can't see very well on the white background, so if I put it on a piece of black. So this is vellum cardstock. It's kind of like a thick tracing paper, if you like, but it's really nice for adding elements to cards because you can see straight through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this heart image from the Modern Heart stamp set, and I'm going to ink it up with Versamark ink. This is a sticky watermark ink, and it's very good for using with heat embossing. The first thing I need to do is I need to swipe my piece of vellum with my embossing buddy, and this will help prevent any embossing powder sticking where we don't want it. So I'm going to stamp my heart image. Don't know if you can just sort of see there. Don't know if I can catch it in the light, or if you can see it. There we go. You can sort of see that under there now. So what I'm going to do next is I want to heat emboss that in gold. So I've got my gold Stampin' Boss powder here. I'm just going to tip that over my vellum, and you'll see initially we get a rather unimpressive brown. Not very nice at all, is it? But I'm just going to pop that to one side out of our way. And I'm now going to bring my heat tool back in again, because I need to heat set this embossing powder and turn it a beautiful glossy gold colour. So sorry about the noise again. I'll hold this up and hopefully you can see that starting to turn a beautiful gold. So I just need to move my heat tool around quite quickly because the vellum is thinner than ordinary cardstock. And we've now got that beautiful gold image. So now I need to cut this out, and it's nice and easy to cut out because it's quite a geometric heart shape. So I shall just trim down this piece of vellum first. And what I've been doing is I've just been cutting straight up each of the segments of the heart, leaving a little border, and that way it makes it incredibly easy to cut out. I'm not the world's greatest fussy cutter, I'll admit that openly. Anyway, I hope you've all been having a lovely weekend. I've had a really busy weekend this weekend. Myself and a couple of other Stampin' Up demonstrators that I know, Tara Fowler at Tara Fowler Crafting and Jenny McCormack at Gemini Crafts, we hold sort of one-day stamping retreats several times a year, and we call those Let's Get Creative. And we hold those quite close to where we live in Brackley, Northamptonshire. And we have usually sort of between 30 and 45 crafters come along and create with us. We create projects for them and goodie bags and things. So yeah, we've just had that. So that was a pretty full-on weekend. So I'm a bit tired today, and that's why my video's a bit late going out. So right, enough of me waffling. I've cut out that that heart now. Lovely heat embossed heart. I'm going to get my stamped panel back and then have a little think about where I would like to place my heart, because I do want to fit a sentiment on here too. I think I'd like to put it a little bit more over to the pink side. And something I am going to do is I am going to stamp a couple of the tiny little heart images from the stamp set. So I'm just going to go back into my Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to do a little sort of scattering here and there of the heart images from the stamp set. There we go. I think that will probably work, but I may need to do a little bit more. We will see what I think when we get to the final image. The sentiment I'm going to use, there are a few in this stamp set. You are my person. You're all heart. I just love you. Thank you. You're in my thoughts and in my heart, and also so happy for you. I'm going to use the so happy for you today. And to make it stand out on my card, I'm actually going to do some more heat embossing. I'm going to heat emboss this sentiment on some black cardstock. So I've got my piece of black cardstock here. I haven't cut it to size yet. I was going to stamp my sentiment first and then cut it to size afterwards. The size of the shimmery white panel that I used was it's 10 centimetres by 14.4 centimetres, so it's ½ an inch shorter and narrower than a standard card front, or 1/4 of an inch shorter and narrower if you prefer to work in inches. So I'm going to ink up my sentiment again. So I've used my embossing buddy to stop any stray powder. I'm going to stamp my sentiment on the edge of this black cardstock, hopefully straight and also upside down, but that's not a problem. Not a problem at all. I'm going to get my white embossing powder this time. I just like to use a coffee filter to catch my spare powder. It just makes it nice and easy to put it away again. And there we go. So make sure we've got no stray bits of powder, but I'm quite happy with that. That all looks good. I shall put this to one side as well, and I shall clear up when we're finished. So apologies, but for the third time, some heat gun noise. So I'm now going to apply my heat tool to this powder until it turns a nice shiny white, and then I know I've heat set all of the powder of my sentiment. Okay, and I'm also going to need a card base for this card. Now on the original one I did a black base, but I think on this one I'm just going to try it on white just to see how it looks, kind of a white on white. I quite like that look. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick my panel, my watercoloured panel, to my card front, and I'm going to use my liquid adhesive. I'm going to go all the way around the edge and give it a good scribble across the middle too, to make sure that that watered paper gets some nice adhesion. And I'm going to stick that down, leaving myself a small border all the way round. So because this paper has had some water on it, I'm just giving it a little rub here to make sure that that glue sets nice and firmly and holds that down for me. Okay, now sticking vellum. Sticking vellum can be quite a problem because you can see straight through it. However, if you put something over the top of it, you can hide your adhesive behind, and that's what I'm intending to do today. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer so that I can cut off my sentiment panel. So I'm lining that up. I know my trimmer blade is going to cut just there, and with this lovely see-through bar I can see exactly where my sentiment is under there, and I'm just going to cut off that panel. We can still see a little bit of the anti-static powder, the embossing buddy dust, so I'm just going to give this a little rub now that it's all dry, with a dry cloth, so that I can get any smears of embossing buddy off of there. So I've got my sentiment panel now. It's a little bit big, a little bit bigger than what I want, so I'm just going to use my snips to cut that down, and then I'm going to make a banner end at this side. My banner punch isn't easily within reach, so I'm just going to do it with my scissors. So the way you do that with your scissors is you cut up the middle of your cardstock, and then you go from the corner to the centre, and then from the corner to the centre, and you make yourself your own banner end. I like to use my punch really because it's much more accurate than I am, but I don't seem to have done too bad a job there. So I'm going to adhere that onto there. So that means I'll be able to hide some adhesive under there. So I shall use my multi-purpose glue to stick the edge of my sentiment over some of my heart, but obviously I want a lot of that showing still. And I'd also quite like it to be straight. Yeah, that'll be straight by the time it's stuck down. And then what I can do is I can attach some dimensionals behind this piece, because they then won't show, and that'll be enough to stick my heat embossed heart down onto my card front. So trying to get this straight. There we go. Yep, just tilt that up so I can see it. That's not too bad at all. And I thought as well, just to add a little bit of extra bling and a little bit of interest, I'll add some speciality cardstocks to this card. So I've got a piece of our gold foil and a piece of our gold glimmer paper, and I'm going to just cut off little 1 centimetre strips of those. So I think 1 centimetre is roughly about ½ an inch. I'm just going to cut myself off another little centimetre strip there. Get my trimmer out of the way. So with these, I'm probably just going to pop them sort of underneath there, just to add a little bit of extra interest. So I think they're both a little long at the moment. I'll trim them down to the same size, roughly. Then I'll see where they want them to be. A little bit shorter, I think. And I think what we can do for the ends of these ones is we can perhaps just cut them off at a diagonal. Maybe cut that one opposite way. And then we'd make kind of a nice little flag end with them both together. And I can stick those up underneath there. So again, they're still a little bit long. And I think what I'll do is I might sort of use dimensions to stick them both together, and then I'm going to tuck them underneath that black sentiment strip, and then that will finish our card off for today. Just add a little bit more. Yep, that's lovely. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to lift this up, I'm going to hide those under there, and then we've got a nice bit of bling. I've got glitter everywhere now. A nice bit of bling poking out from underneath that sentiment. So as usual, all of the products that I use are available in my online store, and all of the links will be in the description bar below. There will also be a link over to my blog where I'll post any dimensions and things, or things that I may have forgotten to mention in the video. Lovely stamp set. I've written myself a great big long list of different techniques that I want to try with this. I'm really loving the geometric shapes in this heart, so I think you'll be seeing lots more from me based with this stamp set. Head over onto my blog. You can catch all the information about the latest promotions from Stampin' Up, and also all the information about my in-person classes and my online classes. Thank you for watching today, and I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you. Bye bye.